Let's talk about tariffs, how they're affecting my small business, and what I plan to do about it. But before we can go there, we first have to talk about the three ways that governments collect money from people that import, which is buying something in one country and having it sent here to the United States. The first is VAT or GST, the second is tariffs, and the third is customs duties. VAT and GST aren't really a thing here in the United States. It's more so something that other countries do. So we're just going to remove that from the discussion. That leaves the other two, tariffs and custom duties. Customs duties are fees that I have to pay on certain types of products that I order from other countries. Now, 90% of my products are made in the USA, and for good reason, but I'll touch on that in a minute. However, there are some items that I have to buy overseas because there aren't manufacturers here in the United States. Hot air guns or heat guns, for example. There aren't any United States manufacturers. I looked. So I was forced to use a manufacturer out of Shenzhen, China. Whenever I import those hot air guns, they come through a port of entry. And when they come through that port of entry, I have to pay customs duties or fees to get those products released to me. Now, customs duties are old, like they are written deep into international trade codes, and they don't change very often. That's why when you buy something from overseas, you have to have an HTS code or harmonization code. That numeric identifier tells the port of entry what type of product you're bringing in. So they're physically going to open up some boxes, look at the product that's coming into the country, make sure it matches your HTS code, and they are going to bill you according to your customs duties rate. Let's take our heat guns, for example. There is a 20% customs duty applied to any type of hot air tool, just like the ones that I order. So when they come into the port, they're going to look at our customs paperwork and see that I ordered $10,000 worth of heat guns. And they're going to apply a 20% customs duty to that, meaning I'm going to have to pay $2,000 extra in customs duties just to get those heat guns cleared through customs and shipped to my warehouse here in the United States. Now, tariffs are a little bit different. This is something that changes more regularly, something that the president has executive powers to put in place. Tariffs change a lot more often than customs duties do. See, tariffs are used as leverage. They're put in place to cause American businesses like myself to second guess buying things outside of the country. Here's a good example. Let's say I'm importing plastic from China instead of buying it from American businesses here in the US because it's cheaper. Well, a tariff can be put on that imported plastic and increase the cost. Eventually, the price will get so high that it will make sense to spend my money here in the United States instead of going overseas, because overseas is now more expensive. Even though the goods are cheaper, the tariffs added on top will make it more expensive than using a business here in the United States. And that's the main leverage mechanism that tariffs are used for, is to force American business owners like myself to second guess ordering from overseas and instead turn our attention to United States manufacturers or manufacture ourselves. Now, tariffs and customs duties will stack on top of each other. So there is a chance that these hot air guns that I've been importing at a 20% customs duty now have a tariff on top. And the tariffs that are on the table right now are as high as 60%. So there is a chance that there's going to be an 80% tax on the goods that I'm importing from China, which means that same $10,000 shipment is now going to cost me $18,000. $10,000 for the product and $8,000 in customs duties and tariffs. So now that we understand how customs duties and tariffs work, what am I going to do about it? Well, I have a couple of options. I'm either going to increase my prices and pass that cost along to the consumer. I'm going to find a new manufacturer that isn't subject to the tariffs, or I'm going to stop selling the item altogether. And that's a decision that most of us are going to be faced with. Will my customers tolerate an increase in prices? Will they not? Can I find someone in the United States to make this for me? Or will I have to stop selling these products altogether? These are all things that businesses like me are going to be faced with in light of increased tariffs. Now, the good news is that American businesses are very resilient. We live in the greatest country in the world. I'd be crazy to think that we won't be able to figure this out. And I'm confident we can. So here's what I think is going to happen. I think that American manufacturing is going to come back in a really big way. I think other businesses are going to be faced with this type of challenge, and they're going to rise to the occasion. Much like myself, some of my colleagues have decided to produce their own products in-house. I mean, I know I'm not alone if I'm thinking about it, but what does that actually mean? It means that I'm going to purchase manufacturing equipment, and I'm going to start making our own stuff. I'm going to start pricing out injection molders. I'm going to look at used manufacturing equipment. I'm going to figure out what it's going to take to make our own stuff. I'm going to do a cost analysis. I'm going to figure out if it's even viable. You see, there is one thing I know to be true. If people don't make stuff, there's going to be no stuff. The stuff's got to get made. And if it gets really, really expensive in other countries, we're just going to figure out how to do it here. I am living proof of this. When I started this business, I could very easily have had our sports markers and our Maker's Magic and everything else made in China. It would have been way cheaper. But I didn't want to. And there's a couple of reasons for that. The first is customs duties. I didn't want to have to pay them. It increased the cost to the point where I was like, it's negligible. There's also the lead time. Everything that gets ordered in China has to be put on a boat and then shipped over, and it takes like 60 days. It's cheap, but it takes a long time. And it really affects my inventory turnover ratio and my cash conversion cycle, which makes it harder to turn your inventory faster and turn more of a profit more times per year. It's one of the levers you can pull to increase your profits. Another thing is the language barrier and the quality of the products. I don't know about you, but the stuff that's made in the USA tends to be a little more expensive and a little bit better. Therefore, it lasts a lot longer. Therefore, I don't need to buy it as often. Just saying. So I chose to make our own products so I could have faster lead time, more control, higher quality, and support American manufacturers, which I am one of. And I'm really glad I did, because when all these tariffs are popping up, I'm not even that worried about it. I'm like, so what? It's going to affect a couple of my items. Okay, no big deal. It's going to be painful. It's going to suck. But I know Americans, we're going to figure this out. And the only way manufacturing is going to come back to the United States is if we band together and figure the shit out. We have to start making stuff here. We have to get back to the way that we were prior to outsourcing all of our manufacturing to China. What a lot of people don't understand is that we've spent the last 50 or 60 years tooling them up, paying them to build the manufacturing equipment to make our stuff simply because they had access to cheap labor pools. That's not really the case anymore. China's not a second world country anymore. They're first world. The cost of labor has gone up. Their citizens are demanding more. Stuff isn't cheap in China anymore. They just have all the infrastructure there. And because of economies of scale, it's still cheaper than it is here in the United States. Well, when these tariffs are imposed, we're going to be forced to make a decision. We're going to be forced to start making stuff here. Yes, it's going to be more expensive. Yes, we're going to have to tool up. Yes, it's going to take time and it's going to hurt. But you know what it's going to do? It's going to build out infrastructure that will make us stronger in the long run. It's going to create way more jobs, not just in the people that have to make the stuff, but the people that have to build the equipment and maintain it and run it and use it. But it's going to keep all that money here in the United States. So when products are purchased here in the US, that money's going to American families that are then going to spend it on their kids and their mortgage and inside their local community, at the grocery store, on teachers and on babysitters and all the other people that do things here. The money's staying in the US. And I think that's the overall goal of these tariffs. Now, speaking of money, I want to talk about today's sponsor, which is Relay Bank. Whenever we make a sale, that money gets deposited in my Relay Bank account. There's no crazy fees. We can open up multiple accounts, send checks, do ACH, wire transfers. But my favorite reason out of all of them is the fact that they're the official Profit First bank. And if you know anything about me, you know that I use the Profit First accounting system to manage the money that comes through our business. It takes the guesswork out of things. And that system makes sure that I'm taking profits, that I have enough money to pay myself, and that I don't overspend. So if you're starting a new business and you need a business bank account, or if you're established like me and you want a better option or a second or third option, I'll put a link in the description below in case you want to apply. Using that link does support me and everybody else that helps make these videos possible. But don't feel obligated. Just know that once you get approved for your Relay account and you set up Profit First, you're going to be set up just like me. All change hurts. All change is uncomfortable. When you start working out, you have to get through that 2-3 week period of just being sore as hell, where you don't even want to move, or someone touches your legs, you freak out a little bit. That's part of the process. Short-term pain, long-term gain. So even though these tariffs are going to create short-term pain for a lot of different businesses, a lot of different consumers, overall, I think it's a good thing, and I think it's the right move. Even though I'm going to have to pay more, even though my business is going to be affected, I'm in it for the long run. I'm in it for the next 40 years. I'm in it for Americans. I'm in it for people like you and me. So when it really comes down to it, yeah, I'm a little bummed that I'm going to have to do more work and figure this out. I am. And I don't even have it that bad. There's a lot of people that have it way worse. But in the end, I think it's going to be a good thing for us. It's going to be a good thing for our country. And overall, we're going to look back on this period of time and say, oh my God, I'm really glad we did that. Because we are now an autonomous country that can be self-sufficient and sustain itself without the need to outsource our manufacturing, our production to other countries that simply have cheap labor and lax laws. So that's how I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to run some calculations. It's going to come down to money, lead time, feasibility, and whether or not it's still possible to do business the same way. And if it's not, okay, I'll change the way I do business. It's not the first time I've had to do that, and it's not the last time I'm going to have to do it. Business is constantly changing. You're constantly faced with new challenges, new difficulties, new tariffs, new systems, new laws. It's part of life, and it's part of doing business. Overall, I think we're the greatest country on the planet. We've got a lot going for us. We've got the smartest people, we've got the hardest workers, we've got the best population, we've got the best laws, we've got the best government. We have the best everything. Yeah, there's a lot to be desired still. I totally get it. But when you compare us to every other place on the planet, why does everybody want to come here? They want to come here because it's the best. They want to come here because the American dream is still alive and real. More now so than ever. So I'm going to jump in with both feet. I'm going to manufacture our own products. I'm going to tool up. I'm going to buy things in the United States, and it's going to cost me more money. And I'm going to make cuts where I can, and I'm going to figure out how to make it work. Because an American business is a very special thing. There's a reason why that flag was the first thing I put up in the warehouse. There's a reason why our products say made in the USA. There's a reason why I do stuff here in the shop and manufacture everything that I possibly can. And I don't think that I'm alone.
All right, let's talk some numbers. I'm going to tell you how much money Scorchmarker made through Shopify, Amazon, and retail over the last 30 days, starting on December 16th. Let's start with Shopify. We did a total of $26,883.30, and that's at a conversion rate of 1.75%. On Amazon, we did a total of $80,420.64. And that's at a conversion rate of 13.3%. When it comes to retail, we were paid out a total of $37,632.98, which brings our 30-day sales figures to a grand total of $144,938.92. And remember, we're in our busy season, Q4, so these numbers are going to be a little bit higher than normal, but hopefully they won't drop too much in our off season, even though I know they are going to because we're a seasonal business. But like always, I will be sharing our updated sales figures with you at the end of every podcast, so I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.